Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Whitney. I'm the Director of Sales at Tubular Labs. Welcome to Scaling Gen Z and Millennial Fandom on social video. At this point, I want to introduce my esteemed guests. I'll start with Katie Daly. Katie is a VP of social media at ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, where she spent her entire career. I'm really excited to talk to Katie because she's really a true digital native, having worked in digital her entire career, starting with .com and mobile and then moving over to social in 2012. That seems to be a pretty great bet for Katie in the sense that ESPN is now a huge social presence. Tubular Labs, my company, which I'll explain a little bit, measures social video, and what we've determined is that ESPN has about 190 million unique monthly viewers on their Facebook and YouTube video channels combined, watching about 850 million total minutes of watch time. It's like an absolutely gigantic footprint. So really excited to have Katie here today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for all the hype. I didn't know that was coming. That was perfect.
Of course. And then I also want to introduce Dave Setti. I'm also very excited to speak with Dave today. Dave is also a very true digital native, cutting his teeth with Google and YouTube immediately following their acquisition by Google. And after a few years there, he went to Whistle Sports and then Complex Networks. Those are both publishers that I think have really pioneered the distributed video model, and I think are great examples of how to build businesses via social platforms. And in the last few years, starting in 2018, he's been at Instagram as the head of sports. So I can't wait to talk to Dave about everything that he's getting into.
Thanks for having me, Jason. And as a former user of Tubular, a heavy power user of Tubular, appreciate all the things that your company's doing for our industry.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. So Tubular Labs, if you guys don't know about it, what we do is we measure social video to provide relativity for business decisions. We measure everything at the video creator and then media holding company level so that you can benchmark the types of videos, the types of creators, and the types of holding companies you're considering for whatever deal or partnership you're doing against one another in an apples to apples format. So we have direct feeds from the social platforms, including Dave's company, Instagram. And we use that data to, we format that data so that our clients can actually make informed decisions about what they're doing in the social landscape on a day-to-day basis. I think our use cases range from traditional media companies to brands that are on the buy side of those transactions, as well as SVOD services that are looking to market their platforms on social. So really broad set of use cases. But getting into the panel, I think it's really a given that young people use social media. I don't think that that's any secret. This conference is called #sports, and we're all addicted to our phones. So that's not really what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is that, you know, if you're an RSN or a team or an upstart league, you're probably looking at your social video footprint and you're going, well, 100,000 video views and 275 gets me a ride on the subway, and I'm not really sure what to do with that. And I'm really excited to talk to Katie and Dave because they're experts in this area of the social video business, the social media business, and I want them to help us understand what it is that people can do to derive value from their social video presence. So throughout today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to break this down from a business perspective in a way that everyone can understand. And then feel free to ask questions in the chat versus a Q&A, because that's what we've been instructed to look at on our side of things. So I'm going to start really simple, and we'll go Katie first and then Dave. What is the point of your team or your job like what is the North Star of what you're trying to do on a day-to-day basis, just so that people really understand what the VP of social media at ESPN and the head of sports at Instagram actually does at their organizations?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it starts with our motto, serving sports fans anytime, anywhere. And our team really needs to live into that. And what we have found is that a focus on audience engagement is really the rising tide that lifts all boats. So that doesn't mean that our team only cares about likes and retweets and video views, but it does mean that if we focus on getting that right and engaging our audience, it allows us to do a bunch of other things that we really care about, right? Expanding our audience, brand relevance, referring our audience from social platforms to premium content experiences, live events, and then ultimately, you know, growing our business opportunity in the social space as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, I have a follow-up question about that, but I'll let Dave go first.
Yeah, well, I think I have the responsibility to have the one of the most ambiguous titles in our industry as head of sports. A very interesting, sexy title, but one that obviously causes a lot of questions and potentially confusion. But I think at a high level, in terms of this role at a tech company, really it's to be an advocate for the sports industry within the walls of Instagram, a platform that has many interests, topics, verticals, and then also marry those priorities with Instagram and its priorities. And so as you can imagine, the needs and challenges and opportunities of sports partners, whether you're a league, a team, an athlete, et cetera, all are varying and different. And how do we represent that at Instagram and be an advocate for the things that we need to do to better serve the sports industry and our constituents. So that is truly it in a nutshell. And we also work as a consultative resource to partners like ESPN, Sky, the NBA, LeBron James, et cetera, on how they can best leverage our platforms to accomplish the things that are important to their business. So whether it's for ESPN and trying to drive tune into some of their live events, whether it's, again, a LeBron or a Marcus Rashford who wants to use our platform to drive social impact and real change in the world, how do we work with those partners hand in glove to make sure that Instagram is a great place for them to accomplish those things that are meaningful to them?
Dave, so I think of Instagram as having two main mandates for driving their business. One is, driving engagement on the platform, because like, first and foremost, it's an advertising platform. And then the second thing is, selling those ads. So how do you make a decision when you're talking to a creator or a media company, what kind of conversation it is, and like what you're looking to get out of the conversation in terms of like, is this going to drive engagement, or is this an opportunity for us to sell ads to this person?
Yeah, for partnerships specifically, it's focusing on really the organic aspects of our platform. Obviously, partners like ESPN are leveraging both the organic and paid side of our platform. But for us, what we're rooted in is, at its core, how are we relevant to young people? Because if you're relevant to young people and we are enabling our partners to leverage Instagram and the totality of the services and tools that are available to them, we know that that's going to, if not directly, indirectly contribute to Instagram's bottom line. So our responsibility isn't trying to get any number of media companies or other partners in our organization to leverage both aspects of our platform. The totality of growing the sports ecosystem on Instagram is going to indirectly do that. And so whether it's working with a digital publisher who's exploring the merch space, or it's working with ESPN to leverage some of the newest aspects we have for Instagram Live that are going to help them drive urgency with a younger audience around the things that they're covering as part of their brand. That's what our teams are focused on, more so than how do they leverage an effective paid strategy as the primary reason we're working with them.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because like if the goal is just to graft whoever you're talking to like whatever is relevant amongst youth on Instagram, like I think what's nice about the business is because positioned in such a way that you can benefit either way. And so that's what really matters is like, it doesn't matter if you're driving engagement or if you're selling ads this person, if you're successfully creating a creative synergy between the person you're talking to and youth engagement, then you're doing your job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I don't want to speak on behalf of Katie, but I know one of the reasons Instagram is an appealing platform for them to program to and to build an audience is because they are in essence engaging the next generation of sports fans, which we know are on our platform. And Instagram is doing a job of making sure that we continue to future-proof ourselves, for lack of a better term, to make sure that young people are consistently wanting to come to Instagram to engage in the things, the people, the hobbies, the interests that they love. Obviously, sports being one of those primary interests with 500 million sports fans on our platform. So that to us is the key, is being relevant to young people and then working to serve Katie and the rest of our industry on how they can best use Instagram to do just that.
I love that, because this is a perfect segue into what I'm about to ask Katie. So Katie, you work at ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. It's a gigantic broadcasting business. It's widely known that ESPN is the largest carrier fee on a per subscriber basis for cable. You have a beautiful new SVOD platform called ESPN Plus. So you have all these premium content options. Like, how does social fit in with that? Where is it adding value that is fundamentally different from those other services that ESPN is also providing and has been their bread and butter for a long time?
Yeah, I think our team sits in a really interesting space because ultimately we're responsible for being a reflection of that premium ecosystem that you're talking about, right? Like NBA Finals and new shows on ESPN Plus. And at the same time, we need to live into the E in entertainment a little bit, because we know what young fans are gravitating toward, and we want to be there to do both, right? And we can do both. When we meet as a team, we talk a lot about it's not or, right? It's and. And in that sense, we're doing things like creating custom templates for Stephen A's World, which is a show on ESPN Plus that very clearly it gives you a little snippet of Stephen A doing his thing, but it very clearly says, streaming now on ESPN Plus, to let people know they can get more there. On the live events side, what's been really great is that we are able to work with our sales team. We have social experts on our team that are focused on growing our business, and we've turned it into a very meaningful business. So we will do sponsorships that maybe a client traditionally was only involved in linear spend, and now they can come be a part of the linear spend and then also increase their impressions, their social impressions and incremental reach working with our team. So that was maybe a roundabout way of answering, but I think we've seen that social is able to drive brand affinity. It's able to, grow business, as I've mentioned, in an additive way. And then we're also able to lift awareness of things like ESPN Plus offerings, like really great live events or storytelling.
Yeah, I don't think ESPN Plus is alone in the marketing of the content options. We see that a lot with Netflix and Hulu, who's also owned by Disney, and Disney Plus, where there's actually very chunky pieces of content that are on social video. And I think if you sort of transported someone from 2016 to look at the YouTube pages of a lot of these SVOD services, they would be really surprised at how long those video clips actually are and how much of the content is actually up there, because it really is introducing people to these products for the first time. And I just think that that's a really interesting development where we've gone from short form video to something that is really giving people a taste of what's available.
Yeah, I think, our team is still a little bit more focused on short form, but a great example is our combat sports space and our combat sports team. They are a masterclass in when you have a great pay-per-view card, how are you putting little bits and pieces of content out there ahead of time and reminding that social user who has a million other things going on their timeline and in their life that there's a great pay-per-view card and a premium, main card matchup that.
She's back.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't know where I dipped out. But
there's a pay-per-view undercard.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that our team is really great about taking little moments from an undercard, right? Nothing lengthy and chunky, but little things to just drive that awareness that, hey, this card is happening. The main card is later tonight. If you haven't already purchased your pay-per-view, do it now, but it's in a way that's authentic to the platform. And there's a paid strategy, obviously, but our organic strategy is about being authentic and speaking to the social users in that way.
Yeah.
And I would say too, just for the perspective of Instagram looking at ESPN, I mean, the job they've done of tastefully integrating these commercial interests, right? Because in many ways, Katie and her team are the lifeblood of engaging sports fans who are leaning into the ESPN brand, but how do they marry being an entertainment brand that's engaging their fans on a day-to-day basis, as well as focusing on some of the higher level company priorities, such as driving pay-per-view subscription to some events such as MMA. And I think there is clearly like an authentic way to do that, not to overuse that word, that doesn't feel overly promotional. And I think ESPN's done a really nice job of doing that because they're doing it in a way that still feels true to the values of the brand on social, while also sharing content that clearly their fans are interested in seeing. And as I mentioned earlier, driving urgency to the things that they also would be interested in watching, such as their ESPN Plus offering.
Yeah, I love that, because like if you're a company that is selling anything on a distributed video platform or any sort of social platform, what I love is that if you really invest in your content and you develop an audience in a relatively organic way, and you are authentic, as you're saying, Dave, like what that really amounts to is a lot of free advertising inventory, where every time you post a video, it's coming up in people's algorithms and you're getting this visibility that you wouldn't get otherwise. And I think the value of that is exponential. And you look at the opportunity cost of what you would spend in advertising to actually get that kind of coverage. So I think that that's a tremendous value opportunity, not just for media companies, but anyone that's marketing anything that is looking at social as an opportunity. We see this with our clients, Red Bull and Adidas, quite a bit, where they've developed some really strong organic audiences. And it's helped their business tremendously all over the world. I
think for Red Bull, and obviously ESPN, I think there is an element that is really aligned with what Instagram cares about, but also is an opportunity and a strategy for some of our media partners, is the idea of expression and how do you actually encourage fans to express themselves, which furthers, Jason, to what you mentioned around almost getting free advertising, because you have users who are not only consuming the ESPNW brand, the MMA brand, et cetera, but they're actually participating and sharing content that's an expression of themselves and their fandom for those things. And all that's doing is exposing that to an even greater audience of their friends and family. And so for us as Instagram, our core is focusing on varying forms of expression, whether it's on reels or stories or mid-form content. But for a media company to tap into that can be really helpful. And Red Bull actually did a really good job of that last fall around our reels launch, of tapping into the user community for them to generate content and buzz around Red Bull's products, but also, and again, in a really organic, authentic way.
Yeah, the Red Bull example is awesome because they're actually taking the user-generated content. They're using us to figure out where they're actually tagged in that user-generated content, and then they're creating aggregate reporting and then benchmarking it against themselves year over year. And that is just such a great way to take advantage of the user-generated content ecosystem that social creates. So, Katie, when someone comes to you for a sponsorship, or your team for a sponsorship, what are they specifically looking for because they, like you said, there are other premium products at ESPN that they could buy on an advertising base for advertising. And I'm interested to know like what people say when they say, no, we specifically want to buy social. Why are they doing that?
Yeah, I would say, Jason, most of the packages and interest that we get, they're multi-platform.
Right.
And that's of great benefit to the client. I love the Nissan Heisman House example because I think people are pretty familiar with how fun those commercials are on linear. But in social, we have an incredible opportunity where we can have custom branded content. We've done Instagram story takeovers from the Heisman House, behind the scenes. We can do live streaming shows that are digital only and branded. We can go with a highlights package of potential Heisman candidates. So it just allows, I would say the majority of them, to get at your question, are looking at the fact that we do have the largest addressable social audience in sports media. And it also helps that we have that engagement I talked about at the top of the session. We have healthy organic reach and engagement with our communities. So, and the last thing I think we bring to the table is social expertise and being able to, if they have a vision for how they want something to come to life for sports fans, and in our case on social, for younger sports fans, we can help. We have a creative studio at ESPN and folks who specialize in social creative, and we can really bring that to life. I'm not going to use the word authentic because, if we were doing a drinking game, we'd all be in trouble by now with that word. But I think it is a little bit about that full reach that we provide, right? In world-class highlights, talent, et cetera.
Yeah, I will say too, just to further Katie's point, I think ESPN does a great job of creating various expressions of their brands across linear and social. So, what you might get out of the talent and the franchise on ESPN when I'm watching it 4 PM can feel very different and perhaps even more intimate on social in the ways that brand expresses itself when they're trying to really build for and engage their community. What I have also seen in the space, depending on who the broadcaster or media company is the idea of incubating ideas, talent, series on social. Where they can potentially take more risks or potentially even tap into a different kind of talent, whether it's an endemic content creator on an Instagram or a YouTube, to try something that feels potentially not best suited for linear from the onset, but can almost graduate to a multi-platform approach like Katie and her team are obviously expert at employing.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dave. Yeah. Sorry, just to jump in, because with our live shows, what's really fun is that they are more casual, and you can have a host sitting there, stuffing their face with Cheez-Its. And that's just in talking about college football, right? And that's good branded for the audience. It's just great branded content. It's not disruptive to their experience. And the talent, is different. They're more digital focused. And yeah, that's just been an evolution that has been a great thing to be a part of the last couple of years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think people forget that social distribution is not fundamentally different from any other medium, in the sense that like there are people sitting there watching or consuming the content, just like it's television or radio or any other sort of medium that people have consumed media over for since the dawn of time. And then you can put advertising over across it, and that expands your reach. It seems like a no-brainer when you think about it from that perspective. Dave, the example that you gave of content graduating from not a lower tier, but a social tier, and then going to cable, I think your former employer did that really well with the Hot Ones series, Complex Media, where they had Hot Ones. It became a YouTube sensation, and then they were able to sell it to Warner Media. It aired on True TV, and they actually had a they actually caught the advertising deal to market the True TV series as well. And so in that way, they have this show that's really successful. They've sold or licensed the IP to another media company to air where they don't have a channel. And then they're doing the advertising deal to do the tune-in for that show as well on linear.
Yeah,
So
I think
I think there's a lot of ways to do this.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true represents a quote unquote 360-degree model of how do you monetize and build a franchise, right? I mean, Hot Ones again as a digital first, if not digital exclusive series that even graduated from platforms across a more holistic expression of the Hot Ones brand across all major social media platforms, whether it's Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, et cetera. And then how do you actually build a brand that can monetize in a variety of ways, to your point, whether it's licensing the IP, doing a game on TBS, creating your own Hot Ones branded sauces, right? I mean, I think the only way you do that, and to take it back to even what Katie continues to build at ESPN, is you have a very deep, meaningful, cultivated relationship with your fans that enables you to take them from all of these different endpoints, and also builds a value prop where they're even willing to transact with the brands, right? Because that isn't necessarily something that franchises or series or brands can do from day one. From an Instagram perspective, we are continuing to build tools for both organizations and creators that will allow them to effectively monetize their users in the ways that feel natural to that creator or to that organization. It may not make sense for ESPN to launch a hot sauce, but it may make sense for a creator to explore their merch interests in selling a T-shirt if they're going on tour to meet their fans in person, right? And so that's, for us, it's all about building those tools and resources so they can effectively build their businesses, whether you're the traditional media company or whether you're a scrappy individual creator who's trying to build themselves across social.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. So, could you give an example of some of the things that you've done to help incentivize media companies to be more involved in Instagram and put more content there and maybe help them monetize it?
Yeah, I mean, I think at its core, again, it's one, just the value prop of having over 1 billion young people on our platform. And so that's clearly a natural inclination for media companies and other organizations to want to lean in and try to tap into a generation of sports fans that is by and large younger than other platforms where they might be consuming that content. In terms of tools and resources, I mean, again, I think we know our partners' businesses can be nuanced. So if you're an ESPN and you're looking to make sure you're maximizing your distribution and value of premium highlights, how are we building tools like geogating that are going to enable them to do that lawfully, so to speak, and make sure that their fans know they can come to an Instagram to consume the most premium highlights in the world? Obviously, our commerce pursuits are unsurprising to many, given Mark Zuckerberg's comments and the fact that we know that commerce has been a sort of a hot button topic within creator and organization monetization for the past 5+ years. So we continue to invest in those areas. The tried and true branded and sponsored content tools that continue to evolve in Instagram, especially over the past year or so. I know Katie and her team tap into that from an ESPN perspective. And then really, and this is something that I'm personally excited about because I think I might have teased it the last time I did a panel, but we have jumped into the foray of the quote unquote tried and true ads monetization model, which we know YouTube has set precedent on since back when I was at YouTube, back in 2011. But Instagram continues to better understand how they can incorporate an ads-based monetization model on our platform so that for organizations and creators who are creating mid-form content, how are they monetizing that content effectively and in a way that's going to allow individuals to do this full time, and then for organizations who have diverse business models to be able to drive incremental revenue on Instagram.
I love it. All right, so this is the part of the panel where I let you guys complain. So I'll start with you, Katie. What is the thing that you wish that everyone that you worked with, maybe in a partnerships capacity or inside or outside of ESPN, that doesn't know social as well, what was it that you wish that they knew that would help everyone involved with the conversation you're having?
Okay, well, my answer here is not to throw any specific people or groups under the bus, but it's to treat social media professionals the way you would treat an expert in any other field. And my favorite analogy is if I wanted to soup up my car for a race, even though I drive my car every day, I bring it to a mechanic. I would not then hover over the mechanic and proceed to sort of question how they are choosing to soup up my car for this race. And really, the analogy is just that driving your car every day doesn't make you an expert in cars, and scrolling social media every day doesn't make you an expert in social. So trust your social experts. You likely have a social department or a social expert for a reason. And, seeing the tweet replies like fire the intern or the intern did it, like we are beyond that. We don't have, like, yes, we have interns in our group, but this is a profession and these are experts. So that's my preach moment.
I love it. And I see that all the time, right? Like I feel like when I talk to more traditional broadcast-based businesses, the tendency is to not even edit the content and to just put it up on various social platforms and just sort of as it is. And I feel like there's a lack of nuance there that I really wish more people understood. So I've lived that as well. Dave.
Yeah, I mean, well, just to further what Katie said too, I mean, these teams that Katie and her contemporaries are running are not merely of service to the rest of their organizations. They are true strategic thought partners with, frankly, the greatest pulse on what their young fans want to see out of their brands. And I don't know if you can be any more important in an organization than having that kind of responsibility. So that's the gravity with which we treat those parts of our partners' organizations. I'm glad Katie didn't throw Instagram Sports under the bus. Maybe she'll save the gripes for email, which I appreciate, her text. For me, it's, I mean, one, we would just continue to implore our partners to use and everybody within the sports ecosystem to use our platform holistically and all the different services that you can express your brand or yourself. Because they are different. The same content that works on stories is not the same kind of content that would work on reels. Team USA is actually a great example, since we're in an Olympic year, hopefully, where they actually have really effectively created a feed, stories, and reel strategy that feels bespoke to each of those services and really expresses their brand and the content they have access to in very different and unique ways. To the extent that you can create bespoke content for Instagram, I would say to do so. I know that flies a little bit afield from the model of create, distribute, or create once, distribute, monetize 2, 3, 4 times over. But to the extent you can create in vertical, exercise Instagram practices, we definitely encourage that. And even things like using watermarks on content, making it feel like this content is what an Instagram user or fan came there for is definitely a principle. And then my lasting comment would just be understanding and internalizing that platforms like an Instagram or like a YouTube, even like a Twitter, serendipitous moments are part of the reason users come to our platforms to catch up, to see who's going live, and how does that align with the business opportunity that you all have, and how can that even further and strengthen your value prop? I know with ESPN, we work with them on their Last Dance coverage, right? Premium IP they're posting on linear, but with a really strong social approach that created an urgency and even a buildup by going live on our platforms 30 minutes in advance, building up some hype, some anticipation with culturally relevant public figures and creators, and then driving to the main event, so to speak. And so again, I think that's what Instagram users and sports fans are coming here for. And if you can further that, the idea of coming there for serendipitous moments and driving some urgency and inspiration, that to me is at the core of a great sports strategy.
I love it. Well, I'll summarize really quickly if you didn't get a chance to listen to the whole thing. Engagement first, otherwise you can't really do anything else. Once you have engagement, if you're a media company or a team or a league, you should definitely be selling sponsorships against that engagement. And then from both of our panelists, hire and trust experts who understand your resources and thus the options available to you. Thank you so much for joining me, Katie and Dave. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much to #Sports for having us.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.